Hare Krishna.
Verse 8 to 13.
No, 2:8.
Canto 8, chapter 2, verse 13.
Canto 2,
Canto 8.
chapter 8.
Canto 2, chapter 8.
Yeah,
Verse 2, 8, 13.
Wow, that was quick.
13 and 14. So they told to me here. Is no purport. So 14. So we chant 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Saraswatim Vyasam Tojayam Dhiraya Astapreshu Bhadrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtahi. Kalasya
Kalasyanugatir Yatu Lakshite Vidi Yahartyapi Yavatya Karma Katayo Yadashir Tvija Sattama. O purest of the Brahmanas, please also explain the cause of the different duration of time from both short and long, as well as the beginning of time following the course of action. Text 14.
Yasmin Karma Samavayo Yata Yenopargyate Gunanam Guninam Chaiva Parinamam Abhipsatam Yasmin Karma Samavayo Yata Yeno Pagriyate Gunanam Guninam Chaiva Parinamam Abhipsatam Yasmin Karma Samavayo yata yenopagrihyate gunanam gunanam chaiva parinamam abhipsatam yasmin karma samavayo yata yenopagrihyate gunanam guninam chaiva parinamam abhipsatam yasmin karma samavayo
Yasmin karma samavayo
yata yenopagrihyate
Dayeno Bhagiyate
gunanam guninam chaiva
Gunanam Gunam Shaiva
parinamam abhipsatam
Parinamamabhipsatam Yasmin karma samavayo
yasmin karma samavayo
Yatayeno pagrihyate
yata yenopagrihyate
Gunanam guninam chaiva
gunanam guninam chaiva
Parinamam abhipsatam
parinamam abhipsatam
Yasmin karma samavayo
yasmin karma samavayo
Yatayeno Bhagiyate
yata yenopagrihyate
Gunanam Guninam Shaiva
gunanam guninam chaiva
Harinamam Abhipsatam
parinamam abhipsatam
Yasmin karma samavayo
yasmin karma samavayo
yatayeno priyate
yata yenopagrihyate
gunanam kuninam chayava
guninam chaiva
parinamam priyasitam
parinamam abhipsatam Yasmin
in which
karma actions samavaya accumulations yata as far as yena by which upagriyate takes over gunanam of different modes of material nature guninam of the living beings cha also eva certainly parinamam exalted abhibhasatam of the desires.
Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulations of the reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature act upon the desiring living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures. Please repeat. Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulations
of the reactions resulting
from the different modes of material nature
different modes of material nature
act upon the desiring living being,
promoting or degrading him
among different species of life,
among different species of life,
beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures. Purport by His divine grace, this comes to be found in the charge.
Jai Prabhupada.
The actions and reactions of all works in the material modes of nature, either in the minute form or in the gigantic form, are accumulated, and thus the result of such accumulated actions and reactions of karma or work become manifested in the same proportion. How such actions and reactions take place, what the different procedures are, and in what proportion they act, all subject matters of Maharaj Parikshit's inquiries from the great Brahmana, Shukadeva Goswami. Life in the higher planets, known as the abodes of the denizens of heaven, is obtained by the strength, not by the strength of spacecraft, as is now being himself as a citizen of America. Similarly, the same mentality is prevailing in every other planet where there are more intelligent living beings residing. The higher planetary living conditions are all in the mode of goodness, and anyone desiring to enter the higher planets like the moon, sun, and Venus must qualify through thoroughly by activity in complete goodness. March Parikshit's inquiries on the basis of proportionate actions of goodness which qualify one in this planet to be promoted to the higher regions of the universe. Even on this planet of our present residence, one cannot achieve a good position within the social order without being qualified with proportionate good work. One cannot forcibly sit on the chair of a high court judge without being qualified for the post. Similarly, one cannot enter into the higher planetary systems without being qualified by good works in this life. Persons addicted to the habits of passion and ignorance have no chance of entering the higher planetary systems simply by an electronic mechanism. According to the statement of the Bhagavad Gita 9:25, persons trying to qualify themselves for promotion to the higher heavenly planets can go there. Simply persons trying for the Pitalokas can go there. Simply persons trying to improve the conditions on this earth can also do that. And persons who are engaged in going back home, back to Godhead, can achieve that result. Various actions and reactions of work in the mode of goodness are generally known as pious work with devotional service. Culture of knowledge with devotional service. Mystic powers with devotional service. And at last, devotional service unmixed with any other varieties of goodness. This unmixed devotional service is transcendental and is called para bhakti. It alone can promote a person to the transcendental kingdom of God. Such a transcendental kingdom is not a myth, but is as factual as the moon. One must have transcendental qualities to understand the kingdom of God and God himself. Stapitam Dena Bhutale, Fire Rupa Kadamayam, Dadati Swapadantakam. Vande Ham Shri Guru, Shri Dapadakamara, Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha, Shri Rupam Sabjatam, Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam, Sadvaitam Sadhutam Vijnam Sahitam, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Deva, Shri Radha Krishna Padam, Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bando Jagate, Gopisha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute, Jayatam Sarato Bambor, Mama Manda Matergati, Matsarvasva Vadambo Jo, Radha Madana Mohan. Divyat Virinuranya Kalpajumada, Śrīmad Ratnagara Singha Sanasto, Śrīmad Radha Shri Govinda Devo, Vastalavi Sevimana Smarami, Śrīmad Rasa Prasadambi, Bhamsi questions by King Parikshit. Parikshit is praised by asking all of these different questions, because these questions are indicative of one very sincere in undergoing the correct methodical process of understanding the absolute truth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead completely. Where's Prabhupada? Prabhupada says in one place that this is different than the procedure of fools, sentimentalists, and fanatics, particularly or specifically indicating the cheap devotees or the Prakrita Sahajas who want to make a shortcut of everything, but very grossly still guided by their lusty, contaminated desires for enjoyment in this material world, in the sensual plane, and they want to try to understand Krishna's supreme activities with his topmost devotees in that light. Prabhupada says that unless one is sufficiently advanced and blessed by the spiritual master, one is sure to blunder, just like the Sahajis. So, all of this knowledge is required, and the encouraging and good news is that simply by performing pure devotional service under the guidance of the Lord's pure devotee, spiritual master, then one comes to know everything as a automatic result of that service. So here, this question, describe how the proportionate accumulations of the reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature act upon, and the desire, the promoting or degrading up or down, beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures. So, Prabhupada's first statement in the purport makes it easy to understand. And then after that, as we'll see, Prabhupada develops his places in his purport presentation. Very, very easy to understand example, which we can all see, especially those who are coming here to the United States from a foreign country. The actions and reactions of all works in the material modes of nature, either in a minute form or in a gigantic form, are accumulating. So, when the pure soul leaves the spiritual world, gives up the shelter of the internal potency, due to the desire to try to imitate Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, then he is immediately faced with some totality of the material nature and the modes of material nature, and almost by, throwing a flotation device into like a roaring tempest, being tossed here and there. It's anybody's guess where that flotation device is going to go. And the main feature of the entanglement in this modes of material nature is that the reactions to our inordinate material, the reactions that come from our attempt to try to satisfy our inordinate desire for material sense gratification and mental speculation creates an entangling web of action and reaction. They are accumulated, and thus the result of such accumulated actions and reactions of karma, activity, or work must become manifested in the same proportion. how such actions and reactions take place, what the different procedures are, and in what proportion they act are all subject matters of large and religious inquiries from the great Rāma Rāya. Or how is it that one particular action leads to this type of circumstance? And how is it that this type of action leads to a different kind of circumstance within the modes of material nature? It's all based on forgetfulness of one's original self, forgetfulness of self-realization. But it seems like that there are just so many differences. And we see in material consciousness, everyone is not able to relate to the others properly because everyone is in illusion, identifying the external material body as the person. You know, so this is a fat person, it's a skinny person, it's an ugly person, it's a beautiful person. It's all based on the body. And the body is changing, you know, from birth to babyhood to, you know, like I was, all the way through the different stages of life. And especially people are so much attached to the youthful stage of life, and they abhor the older stage of life, when the so-called bodily beauty is taken away, diminished, or even worse, is that old, very old people, in comparison to young people, are considered to be very ugly, not at all beautiful. It's described in one place that wisdom makes an ugly person beautiful. These are all material considerations. So this is one of the primary miseries of material life, this wrong ascertainment, this wrong vision in our social dealings. And this is why it's advised, or this is the standard of the essence-seeking Paramahamsa, that he's free from this false interaction and relationship with others, society, friendship, and love, based on non-self-realization, but false realization, bodily conception of life. Life in the higher planets, known as the abodes of the denizens of heaven. So, the same envy and the same ostracizing principle is there for those who are not fit to be there by that calculation. And amongst those who are there by qualification, there is great envy, competition, and strife, just like we see competition amongst celebrities in this world. You know, they're very rarely on good terms with each other because there's always a competition to be the best. So Prabhupada is describing life on the higher planets is obtained not by the strength of spacecraft. Prabhupada calls the attempt of the scientists, he calls them inexperienced scientists, and contemplated. You contemplate something, you're thinking about it, but it doesn't mean necessarily that you're doing it, or you can do it. So, works done, or activities in the modes of material nature, in the mode of goodness. So there are three material modes. Prabhupada is going to direct us later to the important verse 925, which gives a basic, easy to understand summary of our different types of activities, where they lead us to. We'll get to that in Even on the very planet where we are now living, there are restrictions upon the entrance of foreigners into a country where the citizens are more prosperous. And so this is, so what to speak of now that the rules for entering the United States are even more strict than, say, in the 1970s. One reason is there's more population, at least 100 million people more than there were some 40 years ago. So, and then those who purportedly are born here, of course, it's the white Europeans who came here, they more or less forcibly usurped and displaced in a not nice way the Native American Indians who had been here for many thousands of years prior. So all of a sudden they're claiming that we're the proprietors of this land. So they're considering there's enough people here, we have too much problems, this and that, or we want to keep things in a certain way so we can enjoy it better. If we let too many people in, then we have to share the wealth, or let's say what they consider overpopulation, or too many people is going to create a strain on our resources, and it's going to make our present quality of life less, so we don't really want that to happen. For example, the American government has many restrictions for the entrance of foreigners from less prosperous countries. The reason is that Americans do not wish to share their prosperity with any foreigner who does not qualify himself as a citizen of America. They'll make so many rules and regulations and procedures to get the qualification to stay here that it's so discouraging, such a rigorous procedure that it'll filter out a large percentage of those who try to apply, and they'll just become discouraged and give up and leave or make themselves here illegally, and that puts there's more or less completely cancels their attempt to later do it properly because of going the illegal route. So the same mentality is prevailing in every other planet where there are more intelligent living beings residing. The higher planetary living conditions are all in the mode of goodness, and anyone desiring to enter the higher planets like the Moon, Sun, and Venus must qualify through the activity in complete goodness. So you want to be in a housing co-op in a very good neighborhood, or you want to live in a peaceful suburb. There are certain rules and regulations that you have to follow, and there's maybe in terms of the co-op board, you have to go before them and review when they look at your resume, your educational qualifications, so you check you have a criminal record or whatever, and if there's anything that's not, and also they'll look at you where do you have that, maybe you have they're trying to make rules these days, but it wasn't so in the past. Are you of the particular race that they want? If not, then they're not going to let you in. So many things. So, Mars corrections inquiries on the basis of proportionate actions of goodness which qualify one in this plan to be promoted to the higher regions of the universe. Proportion. The more money you have, then you get the better car. Right? You work in the car dealership, and somebody comes in with $50,000 is going to get something much more nice if all they have is like, $5,000 to work with. So the cowherd boys get glorified in the 10th canto, Krita Punya Punja, that they have achieved this position of playing with Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead after accumulating heaps and heaps of pious activities. So not, then there is the tendency, even amongst those performing functional devotional service on bhakti, who are not completely aware of what is the goal, to think that devotional service is a type of facility for accumulating pious karmas. And we see this in mainstream religion, especially in the Western world, that their idea of perfection is to achieve a higher standard of material existence, going to the heavenly planets. And there's very, very incomplete and vague information and understanding of what is that position. But there's an idea that you have to be good, and there are ideas of what goodness is, but still more or less grounded on being a good person within the illusioned temporary society of friendship and love based on forgetfulness of pure devotional service. So it's in a charitable way, we could say it's incomplete religious activity. It's not based on complete knowledge. Prabhupada defines pure devotee in one place as he performs his activities without the slightest desire to achieve a higher, elevated position in life. So we see that if we have the remnant, which is like there, always lurking, that we want profit, adoration, and distinction. We're concerned for, we're not performing our service selflessly without any desire for fruit of gain, but there's some desire for, I'm going to achieve a position, something more elevated. Prabhupada, towards the end of the purport, the various actions and reactions of work in the mode of goodness are generally known as pious work with devotional service, culture of knowledge with devotional service, mystic powers with devotional service. Mystic power, we don't have any suli for that in this Kali Yuga, but still that, because I'm so prominent, I'm so famous, I'm so great, that others will more or less be forced to come under my authority, or that like the way I perform my activities, I'm such an amazing book distributor, I have the gift of gab, I can talk anybody into doing anything, there's like a mystic potency. And at last, when one's finished with all of this, devotional service unmixed with any other varieties of goodness. This unmixed devotional service is transcendental and is called Bhakti. So this is the actual position of the residents of Vrindavan, the Gopas, the Gopis, the cows, Krishna's elderly relatives, his mother and father. Bhakti, there is absolutely no tinge of material goodness in their activities. So the service to the representative of the Braja devotees, the Braja Bhaktas, the spiritual master, who is a missionary on their behalf under the lead of the Supreme Spiritual Master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to spread Bhakti, pure devotional service, all over the universe. So, it alone can promote a person to the transcendental kingdom of God. Prabhupada has told us that it is very, very strict. If you have even a tinge of material desire, you are not allowed entrance into the Krishna Loka, into the Vaikuntha planets. One must have transcendental qualities So, look up Bhagavad Gita 925. According to the statement of the Bhagavad Gita 925, persons trying to qualify themselves for promotions to higher heavenly planets can go there. Simply persons trying for the Pitalokas can go there. Simply persons trying to improve the conditions on this earth. And we see there's the environmentalists, there's one young lady, Greta something or other, Thornburg, very, everybody's like marveled at her determination, her intelligence, her tenacity. But without understanding the difference between oneself and this body, one's position ultimately as a servant of the Supreme Lord, then even such laudable attempts and activities, it keeps you in this material world. So you want to improve the conditions on this earth, you can also do that. So the test for these people is, are they favorable to devotional service? Or do they want to perform their conservationist activities as atheists without belief in God, and His laws? But it's best to have like a vague conception of the thing. And that's more or less based on the fact that they want to stay here and remain and enjoy this material world, albeit on a better platform within a higher mode of goodness than the rampant exploiters of the facilities of this planet. It's a step, but without understanding what is the goal and working to achieve it, it's a step that one can fall down from, and it's a step that is not permanent. Yanti Deva Vrita Deva, Vritin Yanti Vrita Vrita, Utani Yanti Uteja, Yanti Mam Yanti Noti Mam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So Prabhupada describes here that going to the moon or sun planet, desired destination, there are specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose. These are vividly described in the fruit of activity proportion of the Vedas. As one of the offenses of chanting the holy name. Consider the chanting of Hare Krishna to be one of the auspicious ritualistic activities mentioned in the Vedas as fruit of activities, karma kanda, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. We do not worship the demigods. It is strictly disallowed in the Krishna consciousness movement. I refuse to worship the demigods. The devotional service is the be-all and end-all of my life. One can attain the peaker planets by performing a specific yajna. Go to where your departed father, grandfather, great-grandfathers, ancestors have gone. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets to become a yaksha, raksha, pischa. Different outrageous anomalies of gross hedonistic life in the mid-1970s was pointed out to Srila Prabhupada, and there was an emerging heavy metal band called KISS at the time, and it was described to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said they're agents to take people to the hellish planets. Even they jokingly describe what is KISS, Knights in Satan's Service. Very, very good. Black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism, and such activities are completely materialistic. We see, like, sometimes to be cool, these type of bands don't mix in like kind of mysticism, and people think, wow, like Led Zeppelin, for example, when they're at the height of their fame in the early 1970s, people try to read into their albums and album covers and artwork, and ooh, this is spiritual. Completely materialistic. Similarly, the pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of God and only achieves focus of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pitas achieve the Pita planets, or by practicing the black arts achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know of them, they fall down. Fall down also includes make the wrong choice. Rollins described this human form of life as a junction. You're driving, you don't have a GPS to guide you. You come to the junction, and do I make a left? Do I make a right? What should I do? I have to choose. So we choose right, we go upward. We choose wrong, we go down. To stay in the same place, that's also a choice. You have to do certain things to remain on this earthly planet in this human form of life. And especially in these acutely heavy Kali Yuga that we're in, then even that choice to remain here requires great sincerity and purpose. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Her Grace Malati Devi, Dāsa, was interviewed on the GBC strategic planning video. They're having the Adivas, they're making the Mayapur festival, albeit with the COVID restrictions. But this is Prabhupada wanted there to be a grand festival in Mayapur for Lord Chaitanya's birth. And it started as a week-long festival in 1972, is now a month-long festival with so many activities. And she was there as one of the devotees helping Prabhupada to begin the Mayapur project. And anyway, in the by and by in an interview, she was asked, she had heard Prabhupada's instruction how to chant Hare Krishna. Or the question would be put to Prabhupada, what should we think about when we chant Hare Krishna? And Prabhupada said, think. You shouldn't think anything, you should simply hear. Because by concentrating on hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, all your material desires and mental speculation will be washed away. And all of the right motivations, aspirations, and desires will automatically come forth in your mind, heart, and consciousness. And Krishna, all the pure devotees, his entire spiritual abode will manifest to you in the chanting. Prabhupada would be asked sometimes challengingly, can you see God? And Prabhupada would say yes, but what good does that do you? If I'm eating and you're just looking at me eating, how does that help you to eat? You have to eat yourself. So the chanting of Hare Krishna is the means and the goal all at the same time. And to display the chanting of Hare Krishna for the entire human society to see perfection of all knowledge is absolutely necessary. It is the living book. It is the perfection of all instructions come to life for people to see and participate in before their very eyes. So that it is not understood or participated in it as much as it should does not diminish its supremacy and its topmost position. So we should do what is required to keep our intelligence very, very sharp and alert to understand what is the topmost position, and we should be very careful not to lose enthusiasm or to fall from this most sublime position and choose any other choice which is based on, which will certainly yield a much lesser or questionable result. Hare Krishna. Yasmin karma sambhayo yata yino kriyate gunanam uninam chaiva harinam visatam. Then again, kindly describe by the proportion of accumulations, the reactions resulting from the different modes of physical nature act upon the desired living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigods down to